Hello, everyone. This is Martha Higgins. I was sitting here by the window just a few minutes ago holding this chipped ceramic mug. It's nothing special to look at. The blue paint is fading, and there's a small crack near the handle. But we bought this in a little shop in Vermont back in 1974. Every time I hold it, I can feel the cool autumn air of that morning and the way Arthur's hand felt when he reached for mine. Time is a funny thing, isn't it? It slips through your fingers like sand, and before you know it, 50 years have turned into a collection of memories held together by old mugs and faded photographs. Looking back, I realize that if I hadn't learned the simple, painful lesson I'm about to tell you, I would have lost everything. I wouldn't be sitting here with these memories. I'd be sitting here with a heart full of regret. Before I tell you this story, please subscribe. I want to pass this wisdom down before I'm gone, so you don't make the same mistakes I did. You see, people always tell newlyweds, don't go to bed angry. It's a cliche, isn't it? It's printed on throw pillows and wedding cards. But back in 1978, during the hottest July I can remember, that phrase wasn't a cute piece of advice. It was a lifeline. Arthur and I had been married for 6 years then. We had a toddler, a mortgage that felt like a mountain on our backs, and a car that groaned every time you turned the key. We were exhausted when you're that tired. Your nerves are frayed like an old rope, and it doesn't take much for them to snap. I remember the night clearly. It started over something so incredibly small. I think it was about the grocery budget or a missed light bill, but by 9 o'clock, it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about every frustration we tucked away. For months, we were standing in our cramped kitchen, and the air was thick and heavy. I can still hear the way the linoleum creaked under my feet as I paced. I said things, cruel things, about how he didn't support us enough. He looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize, full of a cold, quiet hurt, and told me he was doing his best, but his best was never enough for me. Maybe we just aren't meant for this, he said. His voice was a whisper, but it sounded like a thunderclap in that small room. My heart went cold. I turned my back on him, walked into our bedroom, and climbed under the covers, pulling them up to my chin. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to punish him with my silence. I heard him come into the room a few minutes later. He laid down on his side of the bed, right on the very edge, as far away from me as he could get without falling off. The silence between us felt like a brick wall. I lay there for an hour, staring at the shadows of the tree branches dancing on the ceiling. My chest felt tight, like there was a physical weight pressing down on me. I was angry, yes, but underneath that anger was a terrifying realization. If I fell asleep now, this wall between us would be there in the morning, and then it would be there the next night. And eventually, we would become two strangers sharing a bed, living parallel lives that never touched. I thought about my grandmother. She had been married for 62 years when my grandfather passed. I remember asking her once how they did it, and she looked at me with those wise, watery eyes and said, "Martha, never let the sun set on your pride. Pride is a cold bedfellow in all my 80 years. I've learned that pride is the most expensive thing you can own. It costs you your peace, it costs you your joy, and eventually it costs you your person." I rolled over in the dark. I could hear Arthur's breathing. It was jagged, not the deep rhythm of sleep. He was awake too. I reached out just a tiny bit and let my hand brush against his shoulder. He stiffened at first. I didn't pull away. "Arthur," I whispered, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean those things. I'm just scared." He didn't say anything for a long time. Then he rolled over to face me. In the dim light, I saw the tears tracking down his cheeks. "I'm scared too, Martha," he said. I'm so tired of feeling like I'm failing you. We didn't go to sleep for another 3 hours. We talked, we cried, we held each other until the anger dissolved into exhaustion, and then finally into a deep, bone-weary peace. When we woke up the next morning, the problems were still there. The mortgage was still broken, but the wall was gone. We were a team again. Young people today might not understand this, but back then, we didn't have the luxury of walking away when things got hard. We didn't have apps to find a replacement or a culture that told us to focus on ourselves the moment a relationship required sacrifice. We stayed because we knew that the struggle was the forge that hardened the steel of our commitment. It wasn't easy. In fact, it was the hardest year of my life. There were many more nights like that one. Times when the milk had soured and the bank account was empty and we were both at our wits' end. But we made a pact that night in 1978. We promised each other that no matter how loud the shouting got or how deep the hurt went, we would never close our eyes until we had found a way back to each other. Let me tell you the truth. Going to bed angry is like leaving a fire smoldering in your living room. You think it might just go out on its own, but while you're sleeping, the smoke is filling the house. You wake up with a cough and a headache, and the walls are covered in soot that never quite comes off. If you do it enough times, the whole house burns down. Experience has taught me that never going to bed angry isn't about winning an argument. It isn't about proving you're right or getting the last word. It's about humility. It's about looking at the person you love and realizing that your relationship is more important than your ego. Think about that. Is being right worth the distance you're creating? Is your pride worth the silence that follows? You have to understand that love isn't a feeling you have. It's a decision you make every morning. And it's a decision you have to protect every night. When you choose to settle a conflict before you sleep, you are telling your partner, you are more important to me than this problem. You are telling them, I value our peace more than my anger. I see so many couples now who use silence as a weapon. They go days without speaking, punishing each other, waiting for the other person to break first. They think they are being strong, but they are actually being incredibly fragile. True strength is being the first one to say, I'm sorry, or can we talk about this, even when you feel like you were the one who was wronged. Communication is the oxygen of a marriage. Without it, the spark dies. In my late husband's final years, when his memory began to fade and his body grew weak, we didn't talk about the arguments we'd had. We didn't talk about the grocery budgets or the broken cars. We talked about the nights we stayed up late making up. We talked about the laughter that followed the tears. I promise you, at the end of your life, you won't remember the things you fought about. You'll remember the way you felt when the conflict was resolved. You'll remember the warmth of a hand held in the dark. My late husband used to say that a good marriage is just two people who refuse to give up on each other at the same time. And he was right. We didn't have a penny to our names for a long time. But we were rich because we never let a day end with a grudge between us. So here is my wish for you. I want you to have the kind of love that lasts through the July heat and the winter chills. I want you to have a love that is bigger than your pride. If you're holding on to a grudge right now, let it go. Reach out. Say the hard words. Don't let the sun go down on your anger, because you never know if you'll have the chance to make it right in the morning. Life is too short for long silences. It's too short to spend even one night in a cold bed with a heavy heart. Cherish the person beside you. Fight for them, even when you're fighting with them. Thanks for listening to An Old Soul. Subscribe, share this with someone you love, and cherish them while they are here. I'll be here by my window, holding my blue mug and thinking of you. Good night, and God bless.